Welcome back, everybody, to your 2020 vision for your Paramount 2020. And today we have Safiya Carter. She is a plant based food inventor and consultant
Yes.
for institutions, for families, for specialty food products, and much, much more. So she's going to talk to us today about simple, convenient meal tips, snack tips for on the go busy people that you can actually make happen in your lifestyle. So we like that. So welcome, Safiya.
Thank you so much. I know it is just so hard. We have the best intentions, right, to make it simple, and we plan, and then we're so busy that we can't follow our plan, you
Right.
know? So that's the problem. Like everything sounds so good. Like you read an article and it sounds so great, and you go and try to do it, but who has time? So, what I found over the years, and this is really truly the way we live too, and I live, is I try at the beginning of the week, like if Saturday or Sunday, whatever day is the best day for you. I like Sunday. Um, excuse me. Oh, that was good. Um, I like to just block off time, 1 hour. I always tell people just 1 hour. It's so amazing what you can get done in an hour,
Mm-hmm.
and that I can usually find time to do. So in that hour, if you go shopping ahead of time, just when you do your shopping, get all the stuff you need for the week. But in that 1 hour, I bake sweet potatoes. If you eat white potatoes, bake white potatoes. While they're baking, I put 2 pots up of pasta, one of a bean-based pasta and one of gluten-free or vegan, whatever kind is your thing. Um, Make a couple of different types of pastas. And then I put up a couple of pots of other things, like a pot of quinoa, and I do a rice. Maybe it's a black rice or basmati or whatever kind is your favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that if I have those done, when the week starts getting crazy and I have everything ready, I can pull those and make something very quickly. Also, while the potatoes are cooking, that's a great time to pop in your proteins.
That
So
was
if
my
you're
next
vegan,
question, right?
so if you're vegan, and if you're able to do soy, I like to do a baked tofu, because baked tofu could be used as a sandwich. It could be used sliced into a stir fry or cubes in soups. Um, so, easy to do. There are many, many great recipes. I could give you a million, but it would be good to just, or if you do meats or chicken, that's the time. Bake everything, because, it'll stay for a few days and you can really work with that.
Mm-hmm.
The beans, you could also do beans ahead of time if you want, like season them while you're waiting for everything else to be done. I like to also, um, or you don't have to. I mean, canned beans are pretty convenient. Um, but it's nice when they're all ready, because you can pull, like I said, and prepare and mix and match everything. Um, I sometimes like to do an odd grain like millet, like
Uh-huh.
something that wouldn't normally think to do, because for millet, when it's cooked, you can do a quick millet burger, or you could do um, like stuffing for, like let's say you wanted to do stuffed peppers, and you'll have it. Millet is I don't know, a lot of people don't know about millet, but it's one of the only alkaline grains. So, and it's full of calcium and iron, which is very interesting. It has a very mild taste, and you can flavor it. When I cook it, a lot of times I'll season the water,
Mm-hmm.
like plop in a vegan bouillon vegetable soup broth, you know, and season it with my favorite seasonings. But it's a very benign and easy grain. And it does hold together almost like couscous, I would say. It's a little like very fine and soft grain, fluffy. So you can do a lot with it. What else did I forget?
Before you go on, I have a question. And
Sure.
I don't even know if this is on most people's radar or not, but when it comes to the rice and when it comes to the beans and some other things, so have you adopted the idea of you should really soak the rice and soak the beans for 24 hours in advance? Because from what I understand, it's supposed to help with digesting those those things. So tell me your thoughts on that.
So absolutely, it depends on everyone's constitution is different. If you're able to do it without that, sure. But if not, you can soak the night before, um, because like right before you go to bed, and you're thinking about what you're going to do the next day, it's not that hard to just soak them all,
Hmm.
so that when you start your prep, literally you can get all these things done in an hour. And it seems crazy, but if you think about it, while the rice or the pasta is cooking, and I don't usually, um, I don't like to overcook my pastas anyway,
Hmm.
and I especially find for like the bean, like the garbanzo bean based pastas, they get really mushy so quickly, and I like to season the water too. That's something that most people don't do. And the bean pasta has a very strong flavor. So I find that again, putting a bouillon in with the cooking water or even sea salt and maybe garlic, organic garlic powder, onion powder, it really helps to already give it a nice flavor.
Hmm.
Um, so when you drain it, it won't be so like it has, the chickpea flavor. I mean, chickpea flavor to me is lovely, but a lot of people don't like.
Yeah, I love the chickpea one and the banza, and I feel like that one has like the best texture. But I also really like the lentil pasta. I feel like it actually adds a lot. Now, the
Yeah.
problem I find with the gluten-free pastas is that like the next day, sometimes they're like hard. And
Yes.
so, will seasoning the water help with that? Do you think?
It doesn't help for that aspect of the problem, but what I do find is if you put it in with a little bit of oil, like olive oil, if you're on an oil-free diet, you don't have to do this, but trying to, it also depends on when you're warming it up, it kind of reconstitutes itself. So
Hmm.
even if it's super hard, if you're doing it in a recipe, like, and you want it to be a cold pasta, I would just steam it for a second before you add your stuff, you
Yeah.
know?
Hmm.
So, like, that really it just comes back to life. Also separating it and rinsing it really well after you cook it. I like to save the water, which is really weird. If you're cooking the bean pastas, like
Uh-huh.
the especially the garbanzo bean pasta, as you're getting rid of the cooking water, especially since you've seasoned it, right? It
Hmm.
comes the next day in the fridge, it's very thick and it could almost be like gravy like. Um,
Really?
it's really cool. It almost comes like polenta-ish, like a very soft polenta.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah.
Do you
So,
drain some of the water, or do you keep it all of the water?
I mean, as much as I can because I think there's a lot of nutrient in it and also flavor,
Hmm.
and texture. It's great for thickening soups. And that's the other thing. Once you've done all your greens, yeah, and once you've done all your greens and your potatoes, then really you have the makings of soups, chili, stir fries, and to me, it's the hardest part of making a meal is having the time to wait for the 25 minutes and then letting it cool and all of the things to make it taste good. So once you have those done, it's just a matter of thinking creatively of all the things you could do. I definitely bring my food wherever I go. When we travel, I cook and bring. And because of this shortcut, with the tips of having things prepared,
Hmm.
it's really easy to do. And even just making your own like little components of well, for me, we do plant-based, so vegan sushi things. Like I'll have the nori and I'll have the rice. I tend to make rice balls. They're a little easier to carry. You can even get forms like I don't know, you can reuse anything that's like a half circle or any shape and just press the rice in after it's warm, once it's cooked and while it's warm. And so that is a kind of fun thing too, especially for lunch boxes and for kids to have a shape that they can easily wrap their nori if they like nori. Like, and we use seaweed snacks, like the flavored ones. So the kids really love that and they can put their favorite veggies like cucumber slices and whatever.
Hmm.
Um, it's like a Lunchable that you can do yourself.
Wow. So now tell me, I actually should know this, but is the nori and the seaweed? is that shellfish free? Because I know you do a lot with allergens, so you're super knowledgeable about allergen friendly foods, not just vegan and plant based. So do you know off the top of your head if that is shellfish?
You know, it's a great, great question. And so many people have asked me that over the years. And I think you have to kind of leave it to when it's severe, like you don't mess around. So I would just ask the doctor allergist to really make sure that you're okay and test you. But for the most part, I don't find that it's as common as we'd think.
Mhm.
It's a great question. And some people who are super, super sensitive cannot eat nori or
So
seaweed.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
good question.
Very interesting. So now I know for me, I'm an omnivore, so I eat just about everything, except for the things I'm allergic to, of course. Um, but some of my favorite proteins to make are, salmon. You just throw in the oven with sea salt for 25 minutes, 425, super easy. You know, even like boiled chicken, because you can shred it, you can slice it, or slow cooked, or whatever. So there's, you can kind of mix it up. What are your favorite? Because I feel like there's a lot less information out there about what are great ways to get protein in your diet if you want to go more towards plant-based, because a lot of people don't know that things like broccoli has a ton of protein.
Absolutely. So yeah, and seeds, and if you're not allergic to seeds and nuts, those too. And then some of the grains, like I was mentioning, um, with while you're cooking grains, you might as well do a quinoa with protein in it and
Mhm.
the fiber and the nutrients. And they're different colors. I love to do a tabbouleh with my quinoa after it's cooked.
Oh, great.
Um, and just putting the fresh mint in and the lemon, and it lasts
Ooh,
really
I'm
few
getting hungry.
days. I know, and some scallions, and then you can add nuts if you can, or beans, and extra fortifying it. I'm not really big on these, the very processed proteins, but if you're a beginner vegan and you're really missing meat, there are so many great soy-free and vegan new proteins on the market. If you're not allergic to gluten like I am and you are, you can easily throw in seitan, which is very high in protein. Um, and the Field Roast brand, they don't use soy in theirs, in their meats, their vegan meat analog. So that's kind of hard to find. Usually, most of the vegan ones do have soy, although Beyond Meat doesn't
Then they're
now.
sweeping the nation, huh?
Yeah, they really are. And it's like for once in a while it's not that bad, but I think sticking to, like you said, the vegetables have tons of protein, and a protein, that whole conversation is a crazy conversation because we don't need as much as we think. We're really over, like, we've been really indoctrinated to think that we need tons of protein, but we really don't. And it's more so just making sure that you balance everything, and
Mhm.
you're not eating the same thing all the time. And if you can eat nuts, and you can do nut butters and other things, you're going to be fine.
Right. That's awesome. So what are your favorite, for your daughter, what's her favorite like quick, easy, snacky things that you can kind of just hand off to her? Because I know for me, like when I'm on the go, I'm going to the gym, or I'm going to church, and sometimes we volunteer, so we're there sometimes for hours if there's more than one service, right? And so I got my kids with me,
Yes.
and myself. So
Oh,
what are
yeah.
your family's favorite on the go snacks?
Well, I think it's really fun to get the, like, containers, like a bento-y kind of container that has space for dips, and veggies. And then you can always I like to pre-pack in the reusable or sustainable package, zip ones, like the pouches,
Hmm.
um, put a bunch of different snacks.
The ones you
So
can wash.
yeah,
Nice.
because it's fun. Like, people, when you're on the go, you kind of get feeling like, oh gosh, I should have brought the other thing, because now they don't really like this much, and or they eat one and you need another. So I try to pack a few, and if they can eat nuts and seeds, we do that, kind of like a little trail mix of that. Um, Now they have a lot of vegan, plant-based cheese alternatives. So you can get like a cream cheese that's not made out of dairy. If you eat dairy, you could obviously do any kind of protein cheesy things like that with chips or things, spreads. You can make your own spreads really easily.
Hmm.
Um, but I really do a quick hummus in lots of different flavors in the blender. It's so fast. And a lot of people and a lot of kids are now allergic to sesame. But if you're not, you can still put tahini. But I don't usually use tahini in mine.
So
It's
how do you make that?
I just toss the chickpeas in or any kind of bean.
Mhm.
Um, and keep in mind, if you're going to use a black bean, it's going to look really weird. It's going to be gray. It's not very appetizing looking unless you're going to make pretend elephants out of it with the kids and, like have them be able to enjoy it like a fun activity. But um, just if you want to toss the beans in the blender, some olive oil or avocado oil, depending. Um, and fresh lemon juice, spices, a little bit of garlic powder. Again, organic garlic powder, I find is a little bit less intense for the kids rather than the fresh garlic. But if they are used to it, throw a clove in,
Mhm.
and then blend away. And you'll be surprised. It's like so super, super easy. And then I just put it in a container and use that all week. I use the same blender um, to then add a different bean. So if you want to do a kidney bean or a pinto bean or any kind of, and use the same kind of um, base, but you can change up with the seasoning.
Right. So it sounds, like when you hear it in your ears, you're like, oh, that sounds like a lot of things that I have to, put in and do this and that. But you're right. Like if you think about it, it's actually as quick and easy as making a smoothie, especially if you just do
It
it in
is.
a bullet. And sometimes when you use the bullet container, you don't even have to switch containers. You can just screw the cover on. So,
Absolutely.
and it sounds like the beans are really versatile because you can make a cold salad, right? If you can just by adding, like you said, like any kind of liquid, either water or almond milk or whatever you use, and have it as like a bean soup. I used to do that a lot, right?
Absolutely.
So, and then what you're saying, like the dips, like wow, yeah, it's the things
It's
you don't always think about, using the same item to do different things with it. So it's like you're saying, once you prep it, then you can decide, what you want to do with it that week.
Exactly. And if you do have like, let's say a vegan cream cheese, and there are a couple on the market that are really good now. In terms, I mean, some people can't still eat them. They might have they might have corn in them. You have to just check really carefully. They are gluten free, but especially if you're very sensitive for different things, just check very carefully. But if you can, like follow your heart. And what else? Violife makes a feta that's really actually delicious. It's a soft feta. It's not the salty hard feta that floats in the liquid, the soaking water. So you can like mix that, and you can add either dill to it or any of the flavors that the kids or you like the best. If
Mhm.
they tend to like most of the kids are condiment kids, they tend to either like ketchup or they like mayonnaise or whatever base that they like. If you include that into the spreads, they'll be more apt to eat them.
Good idea.
Yeah, they're more familiar tastes. Some like mustard. Like my granddaughter loves mustard. She'll put mustard and dip apples in it. I'm telling you, I've never seen it. And actually, it's pretty darn good. I never thought it would be. She made me taste it, and it was not bad.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Well,
It's sort of like the Waldorf salad kind of thing, like adding the sweetness of the apple with a something vinegary.
yeah,
Well,
that's so true.
she thinks it's funny, but anyway. Yeah, so on the go, like again, back to the snacks, even adding like if you can do popcorn or puffed, like they actually have a non-corn popcorn made out of sorghum. If you look online, you can find it, and it pops just like popcorn if you're allergic to corn and you can't have the corn.
Kidding.
So yeah, and I love these in mine. If you can do nutritional yeast, I do like a really fun mix of seasoning with my nutritional yeast, and I drizzle a little bit of olive oil so it doesn't get too soggy, and
Mhm.
give it a good shake, and that will last for a long time. And then you're getting the nutrients of the B complex from the cheesy flavor of the nutritional yeast, but you're covering it with the seasoning because nutritional yeast can be a little bit strong for kids or for grown-ups. So
Mhm.
I find that if I season it, even with a little black pepper or again onion powder, garlic powder, just make sure you're doing organic with the powders
Mhm.
or the spices. It's something that we don't think about, but they are heavily sprayed, um, and very, sometimes even they, do weird things to the spices. So I would stick to the organic, um,
Good to
not
know.
that more expensive, and it really does change the flavor of the nutritional yeast.
Mhm.
It gives you a nice energy boost when you're out and on the go. I also flavor tortilla chips, or they even have the cauliflower tortilla chips now that aren't made out of corn.
Yep.
Um, and I season those and I put a little nutritional yeast and shake them up in a container. If you put a little drizzle of oil on first, then the nutritional yeast sort of sticks to the surface, and
Okay.
it has a more Dorito-y kind of flavor. It's a little fun if you add some paprika and things like that.
Yeah. So
Um,
when do you mix the nutritional yeast and the seasoning separately?
Nope, I just go for it as start adding everything. Yeah,
You just
give
do
it
it.
a good shake. Yeah, and then once you,
That is better than two.
I know, I try really hard to simplify. Like even sometimes I'll do a salad and I'll put a vinaigrette, like I use umeboshi, the Japanese plum vinegar,
Mhm.
and maybe some, if you don't want to do oil, you can just use a vinegar or lemon juice or umeboshi or anything that's gonna hold it. A little bit of spices and my veggies, and then it'll last, like it'll almost ferment, like you're almost on your way to um, not a sauerkraut. It doesn't taste like sauerkraut, but it's like a marinated salad. And it's actually really nice the next day.
Hmm.
So I get 2 days out of a salad if I make a big salad.
Uh-huh.
If you find, that kind of consistency, it does change it. It wilts it.
Mhm.
But I find it's really delicious and, added with a grain or a potato, a sweet potato. It's really good on the run
Hmm.
for taking for lunch. At least you get 2 days out of it instead of having to do a fresh salad every day. But
Right.
I just big salad, the greens, and then again with the prepping. People always say, "Oh, prep your veggies." I mean, veggies don't take that long to cut, and you can do them if you want to do it in that 1 hour time, and just put them in little Ziplocs or containers, um, and have them on hand already cut. Um, so those are some of the things I do.
Okay. Quick question.
Sure,
So the nutritional yeast, so that is different than like a brewer's yeast, yes? So
definitely.
I mean, another question for allergen sensitive people out there. Um, so there's not really a
A
problem
hop.
then, right?
If you drink nutritional yeast, you're pretty good. Again, check. Everyone's different, but I found that it's pretty easy going on the body,
Hmm.
um, unless you have severe allergies, and tastes completely different too. It's not as strong, the nutritional, but it is. I actually sneak some kelp in there if you can do the sea vegetables. So you can get the shaker of kelp and sprinkle, and that's going to give you so much minerals and calcium and iron and all kinds of fun things.
And does it taste fishy? I'm sure inquiring minds want to know.
It does. I mean, it has a little bit. It's more salty, and it gets masked by the seasoning,
Mhm.
so it really works. And also, while you're I'm going to flip flop a little because sometimes I forget to tell you that when you do your proteins, let's say, when you're doing the 1 hour cook, let's say you made a marinated tofu, like a baked tofu, and you've got the liquids or the oils left over. You can save those and put that into your grain. So now you've got like a seasoning into your grain already. um, don't waste anything, it also helps for cleanup after you take the tofu out and put it in a container. You can just add some water and use it as a soup base. And
Mhm.
again, your fridge might have a bunch of jars and containers, but it's much easier and faster to start with these nice baked, smoky, like sometimes I'll add like a natural smoke to the baked tofu, and it just gives it a depth when you're cooking.
Mhm.
You can do coconut, like you can do coconut aminos and things that give you the extra amino and extra protein and iron. Um, But calcium is a big deal. I know a lot of people worry about that.
Yeah.
And because it has a lot of calcium and so do sea vegetables, it's good to try to incorporate them in as much as you can. They even say that if you add some sea vegetable to your beans, it reduces the gassiness of them.
Oh,
So
that's
if
fascinating.
so you can get a combo, which is like the one type of sea vegetable. Just it breaks very easily. You can snap off a little bit and put it into your bean if you're cooking them from scratch. But you can also put it into your soups and things like that, and get some more nutrients while you're doing that, while you're cooking. But you know how it is. It's easy to make stock, or buy it even ready made, so that if you have the proteins, and you could do a hearty dinner soup with a gluten-free bread and a vegetable or a salad, and you're good.
Yeah.
A lot of times, even for the kids, like I know this is weird, but my mom used to do this, and it really worked. If they're really hungry before a meal, my mom used to give us frozen mixed vegetables, because they're par cooked, and the sweetness of the veggies comes through when it's frozen,
Uh-huh.
and the kids love them. I just put them in a bowl when they're hungry, and let's say, oh, you want some of these, or frozen peas. We all know kids like those, but carrots and corn, if they can do corn, super sweet. Even string beans are sweet in
Wow.
that state.
So that's interesting because that was my next question. When it comes to convenience, um,
Yes.
what are your thoughts on frozen? So, I understand from what I understand, there is, the teaching that if you actually use frozen vegetables versus fresh vegetables that aren't so fresh in your fridge, there might be like a week old, that it's actually better to have the
The
frozen.
frozen. Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
what's your take on that?
well, I'm a big proponent of organic. So they're picked when they're ripe and ready, and they're cut and part cooked. I mean, it's fine. I use them a lot, and I use frozen organic fruits also in smoothies, and I even give the kids just plain frozen mango sometimes, or frozen blueberries. They love those.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so, but the nutrients of a live vegetable or fruit are always best. When less touch to it, better. If you can get the fresh, do it. But if you have a choice between a frozen and you have it on hand versus a wilted kale, you
Right.
might the the frozen. And parsley holds up pretty well too. And that's really some of these, like the greens that we use as garnishes or parts of, like when I was talking about my tabbouleh with the quinoa. Um, of course, I'm going to mince up some fresh parsley, but you can use it also in your soups, in salads. Watercress is so great, and watercress, it's got a very sharp flavor for kids, but for us grown-ups, full of calcium and nutrition. And actually, watercress will not grow in polluted water, and so that it's really a vibrant and hearty green to incorporate. It's so good for you.
Oh wow. So now, do you do a CSA, or do you just go to the grocery store and grab your organic groceries? What's your?
I love CSAs, and it does cause you to cook things that you would maybe not buy. Like we get into our rhythm of the things that we normally get.
Mhm.
So CSA, you get surprises sometimes, and the squashes. We didn't even talk about squash when you're baking. Like definitely put some squash, especially in the winter. Put a butternut in there, and or spaghetti squash. Just having all these things made ahead of time. But I do, like, I shop at my local independent grocery, or even sometimes like the big chains like Whole Foods or Wegmans. Like if you're getting organic veggies, you know, as long as they're local as much as you can. If obviously in the winter we're getting them from California or warmer climate places.
Mhm.
Um, but I definitely, you can freeze your own if you have a lot of freezer space, before the winter comes.
Very true. Very
Yeah.
true. Now, uh, so what are your thoughts on? I know we're kind of getting off topic, but I think that people want to know the answers to these, or at least different opinions on it. So, some people are of the school that the organic, okay, maybe the Dirty Dozen, it says organic, it might not actually be organic, or like it says organic, it really is organic. Like, is it worth spending the money on the organic? Like, how much truth do you think there is to that, and how far do you go? And because everybody's at different income levels too. So what would your advice be for somebody who really does want to eat the best possible, least
Yeah.
toxic possible way? What do you suggest there, or
Well,
what do you know about that?
given what you shared, I know that there are a lot of thoughts about it. I would say if you're on a lower income and you want to eat organic, go with the frozen. They're cheaper. It's convenient. It's better than having spray, to me. It's like if you know that it will reduce your exposure to chemicals, why not?
Mhm.
It's not going to be 100%. I mean, we're breathing air full of toxins every day. We can't be too crazy about it. I try not to be overzealous, but I also really do believe that there's merit to it. Staying with as much organic as possible, um, and using the bulk bins at places like Whole Foods for organic is a
Yep.
great way to save money. And to be able to still stay organic. Some of the name brands for organic snacks and things like that, like you could get um, from Whole Foods or wherever you shop, like the generic brand, are pretty cheap, you know? And even supermarket brands now have their own organic line.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. I've been liking a lot of the new products I've been seeing
Yeah.
come out with the store brands.
Yep, and they're just co-packing. The behind the scene truth is it's just they're getting the bigger brands to do it and putting their name on it, private labeling. So the same quality, but they can afford to bring the price down because they don't need to mark it up as much. They're buying in such quantity.
That's true,
But
and there's no third party,
exactly.
right? So there's just two. Okay, so that's actually a great thing to remember. A great thing
Yes.
to remember that, store brand doesn't mean it's, worse quality. It just means that there's one less person in the chain that they have
Ex-
to pay. So that's why they're able to lower the price. So that's
Yeah.
fantastic. That's a fantastic thing to know, because I know sometimes sometimes we won't purchase something because it's either too expensive, in the name brand, or there's like a underlying, well, it's just market basket brand. It's just whatever brand.
And also, I forgot to mention too when we were talking about protein. I love how we jump around. Um, I think they say it's a woman thing. I don't know, but our minds are always
We're all
going.
women, so we can follow.
We're just so multitasking all the time. I realized I forgot to mention that they have now a hemp and chickpea tempeh. Do you know what tempeh is? It's a fermented soy product it's very prominent in Indonesia. They culture it, so it's sort of got the good protein and it's very digestible. Sort of had a chance to break down some of the things that makes it easier to digest. But I can't do soy, so I was really happy to see the hemp and chickpea version recently. I can't remember the brand. I'm sorry, but I would have given them a plug. They also make a chickpea-based miso. So you can make miso soup in 5 minutes. It's so easy and it seems so complicated.
Yep.
It's so good for you. What I usually do is another thing I do when I'm prepping is I make a nice strong ginger tea or ginger water. I just shred I keep my ginger in the freezer. I don't know if you know that hack, but it
Oh,
keeps it.
that's great, because mine, I don't use it fast enough.
Yes, and not only that, but when you're using it on a micro shredder, you can get it because it's dry now because it's frozen. It's not going to be as stringy, and it just breaks down really super fast. Like you can like do a whole piece of ginger root into water super quickly without the hassle, and or in a stir fry or whatever you're doing. But I make a nice strong ginger in a big pot that you can use for ginger tea later. You could use it as a base for stir fry, and I keep it in the fridge. when I make my miso, and especially in the winter, it's really good. It helps your circulation, it keeps you nice and warm. Um, so especially up where you are,
Oh yeah.
and but it's delicious if you like ginger. But I use that in my base for my miso soup. And again, I add some sea vegetables, some fresh veggies like carrots or greens. I usually try to keep greens in everything I do, different kinds of greens too. So when you're doing your prep, I don't like to cut them ahead of time. They're so quick, just wash them and slice them. Um, and it's versatile. You can add them to so many different things. And the trick with miso soup is just don't cook it don't boil it. You want to keep it right below boiling for the nutrients to stay intact.
Oh, good to know. Didn't know that.
Yep. And then just a little toasted sesame oil if you can do sesame. A lot of people can't do sesame now, especially kids are getting more and more allergic to sesame um, and all the seeds. It's really sad. I don't know what's happening to our world, but
Yeah.
for whatever reason, it's definitely more prevalent. So yeah, that tempeh is another nice vegan protein, um, and easy to digest. If you can do soy, then there are a lot of different kinds of tempeh. It's an acquired taste. Some people don't know, but you really should probably boil it first. It plumps up the bean, and it makes it a little bit less, like the consistency is a little more lovely, but it's also takes some of the flavor, the intense flavor out of it for people who don't like flavor.
Mhm.
So I boil it for a while, actually on low, like a low simmer. Then I take it out and do things to it, you know, season it, whatever I want, marinate it.
Wow. I have so many new things to try.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go back and watch this and take more notes.
it's a lot of fun. I thank you so much. Do you have any other questions before we run out of time?
Yeah, before we sign off, I just wanted to touch on, what you're doing in terms of um, implementing healthier food choices in institutions, because that's, we're, of course, we're trying to like tackle our at home, right?
Yeah.
But we know that us, like in the work industry, in the hospital industry, like anywhere we are, and our kids in the school industry, we're not 100% able to always eat our own food, and sometimes the options out there are not really well thought out, I guess, maybe one way to put it. So tell us a little bit more about what you're doing there.
I mean, institutional food has come, but we still have a long way. And so actually I'm going to be speaking at the International Food and Restaurant Show in New York in March. It'll be my second time speaking there. It's the biggest show for food service in the Northeast. And I really like to work with the chefs and the buyers to show them how easy it is to implement some of the hacks to make it easy for the back of the house, as they call them. The people that we don't see have a huge job every day, and it's really hard to offer plant-based. But the Humane Society actually has a great program that will send chefs to an institution, and so do multiple nonprofits. And if you want, I can, people can email me and I can give you resources if you'd like to see better food. In institutions, beside me giving them hacks, there are programs,
Yep.
so come for free and work with your chefs and work with the hospital to show them how to incorporate healthier choices. And actually this year, 2020, I am going to be coming to market with a whole line of exactly this, because I want to have grab and goes and healthy options that are fun, creative, delicious, and super allergy sensitive everywhere we go. So that is what my mission is for this year, and I'll keep you posted on that. I'm super excited about it.
Yes,
It's,
please do. And how can we reach you? Where's the best place to find you, contact you? And
yeah, so yeah, you could do email, I guess is my best way, because calls are a little harder to manage. But you can email me at KOV, which is kosher organic vegan, so KOV at kovfoods.com, or you can do my first name at Cove Foods. And please do email me any questions, any ideas, whatever. I'm happy to be of service. And we can, from there, and we'll do another one of these episodes.
Yes,
where
let's do
I'll tell you more about what we're doing, and especially for kids, because we need things that are going to be really kid friendly and really exciting to kids. And I was a preschool teacher in my former life, and raising kids and now grandkids. I just want to make things fun. Even for us, women need fun too.
it.
Perhaps too. We get bored of the same old things,
Yep.
So I think that we need to bring a little humor, a little creativity and colors and ease to our lives. We're all on the go. And if we can't do this, what we're talking about today, at least you'll have an option when you're out in an airport or a hospital cafeteria, or, wherever you are, we'll have access to this through what I'm doing, I hope.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes. Well, we need solutions.
We
Definitely.
And I just felt like, if anyone's going to do it, like I kept waiting for somebody to do it. And it seems like no one is doing it the way that I want to do it. So, I think women forget that we can be leaders and we can actually be the change we want to see and really do it. And I just really want to inspire all of us to bring us and our talents and our contributions to a higher level, like you're doing. You're showcasing what women can do and what we can offer to support each other. Why not?
Thank you. And I'm so grateful. I mean, this has been amazing. So thank you, Safiya, for all of that goodness. And I know, yeah, we're just going to have to do like a whole series just, together because
It
there,
really
there's so much to share, so much to talk about. And, I really appreciate your time and appreciate all the knowledge that you gave us today. So thank you so much. And everybody, definitely, she's somebody, put her in your contact list because she is such a resource and has been for a long time for me and for so many other people. And, she really does have like the best interest in mind for all of us. So thank you again, Safiya, and we'll see
my
you again soon.
Thanks for doing what you're doing, and you especially, Christine.
Thank you. Very sweet.
Thanks. Bye.